In this video, why Panama stands out as the premier offshore jurisdiction for offshore banking in 2025. If you are a business owner, investor, digital nomad, or anyone looking to diversify your finances, protect assets, or optimize global transactions, this video is for you. We'll explore Panama's banking landscape with the latest data as of 2025, covering a little bit of the history, the advantages, top banks, step-by-step account opening, comparisons to rivals like the Cayman Islands, for example, regulations, myths, and some practical tips to help you make this a reality. Because I truly believe that everybody needs an offshore bank account. You can't have all your money in one jurisdiction, and that's where Panama comes in. Panama's offshore banking sector is a powerhouse, handling over $150 billion in assets as of mid-2025, according to the SBP, the Superintendency of Banks of Panama. Don't say that word too often. This Central American hub has evolved from a quiet tax shelter in the 1970s to the sophisticated financial center that it is today, thanks in part to its dollarized economy using the US dollar as legal tender, which eliminates currency risk and facilitates seamless international transfers. The roots trace back to the 1970 Panama Canal expansions, which boosted trade and attracted foreign capital. By the 1980s, laws like Cabinet Decree 238 reformed the banking system, established the SBP, and emphasizes privacy while complying with global standards. Panama's done a really good job of getting off the blacklists and the gray lists from a decade ago, and Panama's really back and ripping again in 2025. So fast forward to 2025, Panama's sector includes 70 plus licensed banks, with international licenses allowing offshore operations without local market interference. Recent SBP data shows a 9.1% growth in net credit portfolios to $156.39 billion in 2024, carrying into 2025 amid fintech integration and post-pandemic recovery. This stability, paired with no capital controls, makes Panama ideal for non-residents seeking reliable offshore solutions. So what sets Panama apart in 2025? First, tax efficiency. Under territorial taxation, foreign-sourced income faces zero taxes, no withholding on outbound payments, no capital gains or inheritance levies for offshore accounts. This contrasts with home country rules, but allows structuring for optimization, especially for Latin American or US-linked businesses. A lot of our clients are pairing Panama banking with, say, residency in Paraguay or Uruguay or somewhere else in Latin America. Second, privacy remains robust. Banking secrecy laws from 1959 and the 1970s decrees protect client data with criminal penalties for breaches. While CRS, the Common Reporting Standard, applies since 2018, foundations and corporations can layer anonymity. And UBO disclosures, which is ultimate beneficial owner disclosures, are bank specific, not public. And if you want to learn more about the CRS, we have a video about that on our channel. If you want to learn about Panama foundations, we have multiple videos on our channel about Panama foundations. The third benefit is asset protection. Accounts shield funds from foreign judgments unless fraud is proven, bolstered by a 3-year creditor limitation for transferred assets. Fourth, multi-currency flexibility. Primarily USD, but many banks offer euros, British pounds, and crypto-friendly options via fintechs. And if you're looking for a crypto-friendly bank account in Panama, we offer a service for this as well, even for non-residents of Panama. Fifth, high liquidity and stability. SBP reports 57.9% liquidity ratios exceeding the minima, with no major failures since 1990. Geopolitical neutrality and Panama's strategic location, bridging North and South America, enable fast wire transfers via SWIFT, often same day, to the US or Europe. Finally, interest rates. USD deposits yield 3 to 5% in 2025, higher than the US averages of 1 to 2% per SBP and bank reports. Probably worth mentioning at this time that MyLatinLife is a full-scale visa, citizenship, offshore consultancy. We can help you open bank accounts in Panama, get residency in Panama, citizenship in Panama, Panama private interest foundations and corporations. So if this is of interest to you, there's a link in the description where you can book a call with us and we can get this bank account or this company or foundation or residency in your hands. So link in the description to book a call with us. You could be speaking to us as early as this week. Moving on with the video, for offshore clients, Panama really excels in accessibility. Non-residents, including U.S. persons under FATCA, can open accounts remotely at select banks, avoiding in-person visits and avoiding residency if you don't want it. Although I would argue Panama residency is a great thing to have, it's not necessary for a lot of these bank accounts. And the minimum deposits can start quite low for basic accounts, making it small business friendly, unlike high net worth focused spots. There's a lot of spots in Switzerland, Liechtenstein, etc., where you really need at least 6 figures coming into the bank. But for Panama, you can start with a lot less money to open a bank account, and it's really going to help your business situation, your asset protection situation, and your personal structure. So what are the top banks for offshore in 2025? You can start with Banismo, which is owned by HSBC, at least in part. It's a general giant with 20 plus billion in assets offering multi-currency accounts. Next, you have Scotiabank Panama, which is a Canadian-backed bank, ideal for North American clients. I find there's not too much of a relationship between Scotiabank in Canada and Scotiabank in Panama, meaning there's not too many benefits if you already have Scotiabank in Canada, but that might also be a good thing to create that separation. There's another one called Multibank, which is a local leader with an international license. There's one called Global Bank. There's another private bank called Credit Corp Bank. There's newly licensed BBVA Colombia. If you spend any time in Latin America, you've probably heard of BBVA. There are offshore specialist banks as well that offer additional anonymity. There's Banco Panama, there's Banco Nacional de Panama. There's so many banks in Panama, so many different options. And opening an offshore account in Panama is straightforward, but what I find is unless you have connections, they'll let you apply, but they might not always accept your account, which is why we highly recommend going into the bank with an introduction. So at MyLatinLife, we provide that introduction service. We help you opening the bank account every step of the way, especially the crypto account, which really needs an introduction. But if you go into these banks with an introduction and a reference from a lawyer, that really makes a big difference versus just, coming in off the street. If you just fly into Panama and roll up to a bank, they might accept your paperwork, but it might not ever get accepted. And it's happened even to me too. I've had banks in Panama where I've tried to make an account and they said, yep, you'll hear from us, and then you just never hear from them. But if you have a lawyer that knows the branch manager, that makes all the difference in the world. So step one, when you want to open a offshore bank account, is you need to choose your entity. Are you opening a personal account or a corporate account? Are you opening for your IBC? Are you opening for your foundation? Or are you doing it directly in your name? Step two, you need to gather your docs. You need your passport or ID. Ideally, get a notarized copy of that. You're going to need proof of address like a utility bill. You can get a bank reference from one of your banks in your home country. You'll need source of funds like statements and tax returns. And you'll need a CV as well. For U.S. persons, you can add a W-9 or a FATCA form. No criminal records cert is required up front, but banks may run checks. Step 3, select a bank via agent or direct. Many use SBP licensed introducers, which might run you $500 to a $1,500 fee for compliance. Then you'll submit all your documentation. Everything will get verified, and then once it's approved, you'll deposit the minimum, which you can wire from an existing account. It can be quite fast. Approval can come in 7 to 14 days. So why Panama over competitors in 2025? Well, compare it to Cayman Islands, a close rival with 1.5 trillion in deposits and zero taxes. Cayman's edge is it has deeper hedge fund integration with 75% of global offshore funds and English common law. But Panama wins on costs. Call it a $3,000 minimum deposit compared to Cayman's $50,000 minimum deposit for similar privacy and similar accessibility. Panama is also more accessible. It's easier to get to. It has way more direct flights, so you can go touch your money. You can go rock up to the bank with your debit card and do the transactions in person if you get frustrated by the online profiles. Whereas Cayman is significantly harder to get to if you want to, interact with your money. Switzerland can be a good option as well, but again, you're looking at high minimums. It might be $500,000 minimum deposit to open an account. Belize, I think, is a much less stable jurisdiction. People ask about it, but I would not open my IBC in Belize. I would much rather a Panama IBC. So there are other countries in Latin America that do pretty good. I think Uruguay is the only other close competitor. Mexico can be quite good as well for smaller amounts of money. But really, it's Panama and it's Uruguay, and these are the best jurisdictions for banking in Latin America. Regulations in 2025 reinforce Panama's appeal. The SBP, under Banking Law Decree 9 from 1998, licenses banks with 1 million plus share capital minima for international banks. There's capital buffers for systemic banks, boosting resilience. There's actually quite a lot of AML and KYC compliance, UBO reporting to banks, and all these reforms that kind of happened post the 2016 Panama Papers. So we're now coming up on a full decade post the Panama Papers, and Panama's really making an effort to clean things up as a jurisdiction to present a stable and worthwhile face to the banking industry. It is part of CRS since 2018. There are CRS exchanges of information with 100 plus countries, but offshore structures can minimize exposure. Some of the fintech scene is getting better in Panama as well, so you can have a mix of fintech banks and traditional banks. And it's pretty cool that Panama is updating its regulations and updating its banking center to make ways for the fintechs, because we've seen, especially in Latin America, the fintechs have grown tremendously. You have banks like Nubank in Mexico and Brazil, and they're taking a lot of market share in terms of deposits, and Panama's doing what they can to keep up while also maintaining stability. But overall, Panama is a great destination for offshore banking. If you get residency in Latin America, if you're a tax resident of a territorial tax country, maybe you're a resident of Paraguay or Honduras or Costa Rica, something like that, you know that you can't do your banking in that country because then it's not foreign sourced income. So you do need to do your banking somewhere as a Canadian, a Brit, or other nationality with territorial tax residency. And this, I think, is a great use case for Panama. One common myth, by the way, is that Panama's secrecy is dead post the Panama Papers. That is false. 2025 laws still penalize leaks, And with foundations, that can really keep the beneficiaries private. Another myth is that Panama's only for criminals. This is categorically false. The SBP denies 5 to 10% of bank account openings, if not more, for red flags. But for clean applicants, you should have no problem at all, and you should thrive in this system. It's legit for diversification, and if you have a clean profile, Panama is going to work very well for you. A third myth is that U.S. persons are blocked from doing business in Panama, and that is not true at all. Even with FATCA, banks like Scotiabank can open bank accounts for you routinely, and every American should have at least some portion of their banking outside the United States, and Panama is welcoming Americans with open arms, where places like Switzerland, good luck opening a bank account in Switzerland as an American, but Panama, absolutely doable. Panama has minimal fees, much better than other offshore jurisdictions like the Bahamas or Cayman or BVI. It has strong stability. There hasn't been a single bank failure since 1990. And the USD currency, being able to save in USD, is an incredible benefit as well. In summary, Panama's blend of tax perks, privacy, low barriers to entry, and SBP oversight make it the 2025 offshore banking leader, especially for America's focused users. If you're American, Panama's great. If you're Canadian, Panama's great. If you have residency anywhere in Latin America, and by the way, we can help you at MyLatinLife, we can help you get residency anywhere you want in Latin America, and then we can pair that with a Panama bank account. So if this helped, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your questions. And if you're ready to take action, if you're ready to speak to us directly, there's a link in the description where you can book a call with us and speak with us right away. And we can put this Panama bank account, foundation, and residency in your hands. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.